Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Our family members come from all over the world. And wherever you are listening to the show, we are so very thankful that you're with us. Our guest today is our friend Yevgenia Nayberg. She's here to talk about a brand new book, Typewriter. We are so excited that Yevgenia is joining us again today, and we're really excited that many of you have let us know that you're going to be joining us at our two upcoming spring live events. The first one is happening March 21st. At the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library. We'll be there all day with magic shows, magic workshops, story times. We'll be recording some content for future episodes of the show. We'll have Steve DeRoches from the Boston Public Schools Parent University presenting his really powerful parent workshop. It's all happening March 21st at the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library. We'll also be at South Shore Kids Expo at Kingston Collection, just south of Boston, Massachusetts, on April 5th. That's going to be a fantastic day. We'll be doing our great magic show down there. We'll be recording content for the show. And one of the things we're going to be doing at both live events is we're going to be featuring a number of books from authors who've been on the show and some authors who haven't been on the show. If you're looking for a way to introduce your books to thousands of families throughout the greater Boston area, you may want to be part of this great spring promotion. You can find out all about it by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com/spring. You can also get in touch with our account executive, Peggy Cotto, at Peggy@Jedley.com. And Jedley is spelled Jedlie. We are so happy to welcome back. This is really exciting. One of my favorite artists. She is a wonderful illustrator and writer. Please welcome back to the show, Yevgenia Nayberg. Yevgenia, how are you?
Hi, Jed. It's great talking to you again.
Great having you on. I'm really excited about this. Where your new picture book is named after something that was near and dear to my heart, and something that a lot of people who are listening may not know what it is. They may go, "What is this thing they're talking about?" And of course, the title of the book is Typewriter. Please tell us all about it.
Well, Typewriter is sort of a love story. And it's a story about a Russian typewriter that moves to America with its writer, and then later becomes abandoned by the writer and starts a new life.
You know that you mentioned love story. I absolutely was in love with my typewriter. I'm actually very old and had a couple. I remember being so excited. When I bought my first electric typewriter, which had to have weighed about 1,000 pounds, I think. I was so excited and went in and talked to some of my colleagues, and they're going, "Oh, typewriter! We moved on to laptops."
Right. Well, I think it's very typical and understandable for any type of artist to develop very personal relationships to their objects of craft or supplies. I'm very involved with my pencils, and God forbid someone touches something that's dear to me. I get very upset. So my supplies are off limits, and I think for a writer, a typewriter used to be the most useful thing, and that's how the story happened. I thought about things that immigrants brought to America with them. Usually, not so much in the past, maybe 10 to 15 years, but maybe 20 years ago or more than that, when there was no internet and no connection to the West. And people really had no idea what would be useful and what wouldn't be useful. So people brought so many useless things with them. And I wanted to write a book about something that was really useless. And I did a little poll on Facebook, and I asked my immigrant friends, and I said, please tell me, what was the least useful thing that you brought to America that you thought would be really important to you? And I asked them not to mention, the tomes of Dostoevsky and Samovar, sort of the obvious things that a lot of people wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was flooded with Samovars because everybody still wrote about their Samovars and all, Pushkin volumes that they brought with them. But some people wrote about really interesting things, and I thought the typewriter was one of the most interesting things that people wrote to me. There was the filmmaker who said, I brought the Russian typewriter because how else would he write in America?
Uh-huh.
And I thought, this is great. This is the most useless object you can think of. And that's how it happened.
Well, you're right. I mean, it certainly is right now. And I think back I remember doing term papers, and they had to be they had to be typed, and they had to be turned in perfectly.
Sure.
So if you're talking about a 600 word term paper, and you everything was perfect, and you get down to that 599th word, and you made a mistake.
Yeah. That's what I thought the computer worked like when I came to America. I started my university, my first semester, and I didn't know that you could save. So I would try to type everything out and print it out, and had no idea. So I treated my computer as a typewriter at first.
Can you, before we go more, can you talk a little bit about the immigrant experience? It's certainly something that we hear about a lot these days, and everybody seems to have an opinion, but there are very few people who are expressing these opinions who've actually lived that life and who know someone who's recently immigrated to the States. And, so you have a very first-hand personal perspective on this. Can you share a little bit about what's that like and what your experience was when you got here? Did you feel welcome? Were you, whatever you can share with us.
Well, for me, it's been over 20 years at this point. So the time was different, and also the place. I came to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh, that was my first stop, was not very not a typical immigrant place, I should say. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of mixed feelings from the people that lived in Pittsburgh at the time. And it's very different now. When I visit now, it feels much more cosmopolitan. Mm-hmm. But there was some confusion, and there were a lot of surprises, and people were not prepared for people with accents. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty tricky experience for me. Mm. And again, I think the world is so much smaller now, and people come much better prepared. And my family was not prepared. Really, you have to have really an amazing imagination to to foresee what could happen with you, and you will probably be wrong. So the fact that people really do not speak your language, it's very hard to imagine how it is when people don't understand you and you don't understand them. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me and my family too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we travel. My wife and I travel, and but a lot of times when Americans, when they travel, they travel from the United States and go to a different country to experience a different culture, but they stay at the Holiday Inn or the Marriott, and they're really just staying in America, a slice of America that's just in a different place, Yeah.
But, it's different now with, Airbnb and places like that. People much more open. I've been traveling before those apartment sharing ideas became commonplace. I would try to find apartments and investigate different places when I traveled. But I think that was all much easier than coming to America, because that was my first trip to the West. Mm-hmm. It wasn't Soviet Union anymore, but just barely. We were barely out of the Soviet Union. Still felt like the Soviet Union a lot at that point. So it was a huge change, of course. Yeah. I think when you're a verbal person and you express yourself verbally, I think that's the biggest struggle, when you really cannot be yourself, because you cannot express yourself. You cannot be witty. You cannot be quick. And that's tricky. At least it was really tricky for me to not, I was not able to be myself as much as I wanted.
That's something that's really, I don't think we think about, and I don't think we can appreciate. What I've mostly traveled to to Spanish-speaking countries, and I am not fluent in Spanish, but I have a fairly strong vocabulary, and I can articulate and I can make myself understood, but I can't express myself the same as, when I'm doing in English. And there are a lot of ideas that I'm not able to express, and it can be very frustrating.
Yeah. I think even when you're able to express yourself quite well, I think I manage okay. I feel that I'm still a slightly different person. It's very interesting. I feel that I'm two different people in two different languages. Maybe not significantly different, but still, there is a difference.
Yeah. One of the things that when I toured performing in Puerto Rico and was performing in Spanish, I taught myself to think in Spanish when I was down there and touring around, and I would really kind of be disciplined to think in Spanish, and it is different. You're using a different part of your brain, but also I can't explain it, but I understand what you're saying. There is a difference, when you're thinking with your native language and when you're thinking with a new language.
Yeah. You're a slightly different person, absolutely.
Yeah. So, does this make your job as an illustrator? Is it, is that something that you really love because you are able to express yourself in many different languages just through your illustrations?
I don't know. I've been an artist for so long that it's just a very natural other language to me. But with illustration, it's really a combination of words and art. Even if there are no words, still you think slightly in a textual format. I don't know how to explain it well, but when it's fine art, I think it's different. But when you rely on a text, I think an illustration has that verbal quality to it.
Yeah, we're talking with some reading specialists, and they one of the things that they suggest to parents who are reading with their really young kids, their new readers, is to do, I think they called it a picture walk, where you cover the words and just look at the pictures and talk about the pictures with your kids before you start reading the story, and see if the kids can come up with what they think the story, what they think the illustrations might be saying. I'm imagining that a family could have a lot of fun doing a picture walk with Typewriter.
That would be interesting, especially, like you said, maybe really little kids, very small kids don't even know what that is. Although I had a lot of success with kids who were maybe around 7 to 10, they all knew what it was.
You have a really unique style that I love. Is there is it a particular style? Does it come from a school, or is this something that's very unique to you?
Well, of course, I would like to think that it's very unique to me, but, we're all a product of what we see and how we learn. I'm sure many things have influenced me at different times and continue to influence. I always, I fall in love with different artists all the time and follow them and slowly fall out of love and pick up someone else. So I think it's a sum of things. I think there are a lot of things that influence me. I hope there is a lot of myself in the book as well, but I'm sure I'm not alone there.
That's something I think that's something that we could probably encourage our kids to do, as they're, so many kids love to draw, but I think a lot of kids feel a need to kind of stay within the lines, and I get there's some value to that. But how can we encourage our kids to kind of find their own voice through illustration, through drawing?
I think they just need to observe the world. I think just looking and seeing and trying to see something unusual, I think that's what's really essential. I would never worry about a style. I think style just happens naturally. It's okay to imitate. A lot of people imitate. A lot of writers imitate when they're young. And I think individual style develops sometimes slowly, but I would not concentrate on one style. And I think it's always great to stretch a little. I get easily bored. That's why I like editorial work so much, because I can hop from style to style. And I never really worry about looking as Yevgenia Nayberg. I just want to express whatever's in my head or whatever I see. I often feel that whatever I do is kind of realistic, and clearly it's not. But that's sort of the angle of vision, so to speak.
Yeah, neat. You were telling me before we started recording that you have a new book that will be coming out later in 2020. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. The new book is called Mona Lisa in New York, and it's my ode to New York City and Renaissance art in one package.
Cool.
So, it's a story of Mona Lisa, who's sort of a tired snob and know-it-all who travels to New York because she wants to impress everyone there.
Uh-huh.
And instead of that, she falls in love with New York and perhaps decides to stay. We'll see.
Kind of, not the snobby part, but it kind of sounds like your journey. You came to New York and fell in love with it and stayed.
Well, perhaps including the snobby part. Well, I thought about it a lot because I knew so much about classical art. That's what I thought before I came to America. And I didn't really know much about street art, for example. And when you know classical art, you feel like you know so much. And then you come and you discover something completely new and fresh and effortless. And you can't help but love it. So, yeah, I think it's about being open-minded and embracing new experiences and just learning to love life or trying to learn to love life as much as you can.
Are there any kind of experiences that you want to take, that you want to jump into, that you haven't been able to do it yet? Maybe you haven't had the opportunity, or maybe you're it's a little bit too far outside of your comfort zone.
Yes, I'd like to ride a bike in the city. I'm terrified to do that.
Well, you're actually probably pretty wise when you think about it. I'm a cyclist. I loved bike riding when I actually lived in the inner city. There's no need for me to have a car, and I had a bicycle, but I was unusual, and people didn't seem there weren't many people who seemed to try to aim at me.
Yes,
but
it is scary.
Yeah, there are some places in Boston where biking is very, very popular, and I don't like driving in those areas because I don't want to hurt anybody. And there's so many bikes, and especially at night, I'm like, get me out of here. I don't want to kill someone.
Well, there you go. This is how dangerous and daring I am. And I aim pretty low, apparently.
Okay, well, I guess I've talked you out of that. I didn't mean to do that. Well, maybe you can kind of experience it through art. Maybe there's a book there that is waiting to come out of you.
I can fight my fears of biking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, we were talking earlier on about, because Typewriter is talking about an immigrant who brought a Russian typewriter to the United States. What can we do as, people who are here, whether our family's been here 5 generations or we're recently immigrated to the United States ourselves? What can we do to better understand folks who are coming to this country, folks who are immigrating here?
Well, as an immigrant, I wouldn't have any expectations because I don't think it's wise on my part to expect people to do things for me. I'm a guest who was invited and welcome, so that's already good enough. Mm-hmm. But I think just staying curious, that's something that always great. Just to ask and I wouldn't say not to make assumptions because it's natural for people to make assumptions, but rather break assumptions. Be surprised at what you find out. Yeah. Because, we all expect something, but then, I assume, but then I'm happy to be surprised.
Yeah.
So I think be ready to be surprised.
I like that. Be curious. I remember growing up and being very curious about folks who were different. And I remember my mom saying, don't stare at that person. Oh, don't ask that question. And I think you're right. I mean, I think there are ways to ask questions and that we can do it in a respectful way that's going to bring folks together.
Yeah. I think a difficult question that I've been asked a lot is the question, do you like it here? Ooh. It's a very complex question, and the easiest answer to it is yes. But if you actually want to know, you have to ask more of a complex question. That's, I think, what it is.
Okay. Well, I'll take this as an invitation. What do you like about being here in the States?
I like that there are so many different people. I think that's what I really like. And of course, I live in New York, and New York is not the entire United States. And,
right.
But I like that there are so many different people that you can see anything and you can meet anyone, and any type of surprise always is waiting for you. That's what I like. That it's not a monotonous place. That's why it's so infinitely exciting and interesting.
Yeah, New York City certainly is not a monotonous place by any means.
Well, also for me being such a geographic idiot, I get lost in my own neighborhood all the time. So for me, I turn the corner and I'm in a different world, and that happens to me several times a day. So yeah, I'm surprised all the time, every day.
Well, that's one of the things about a big city like New York is that you literally, I mean, you can turn a corner and you are in a different world. Because of in those waves of immigration, folks would come and Italian folks who would go in one part of the city, Chinese folks would go in the other part of the city, Irish folks go into, and the neighborhoods were very, very different. And yeah, like you said, you can be in a different world. I guess I should also ask the reverse question, the opposite question. What is it about being here that you don't like so much?
Very short vacations. I'm working with a German publisher right now, and they constantly on vacation. They constantly travel, and they still get everything done. I'm not behind. They're on top of things, but they constantly travel, and I'm very jealous.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, there are lots of things that we can learn here in the United States from other folks.
Yeah,
that's
true.
Well, we want to learn where we can go online to find out more about you and more about your wonderful work.
Well, you can go to my website, which is www.nayberg.org. And I have an Instagram account, which is znayberg.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we want to encourage everybody to check out Typewriter. It's a wonderful story, and the illustrations are absolutely delightful. That I know that you and your kids will enjoy it. We've been speaking to the author Yevgenia Nayberg. Yevgenia, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Jane Jones. She'll be here to talk to us about her wonderful The Official Adventures series, a great, great series about kids who love to play hockey. If you have a hockey player in your life, you want to check out this episode of the show. Jane Jones, the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, you may want to check out our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read program. If our panel believes that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. And with that status comes a whole lot of great tools that are going to help your book stand out from the crowd of books that are published every single month. Please go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Author Services button at the top of the page, and you will be able to find out all about this great program. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to thank our guest, Yevgenia Nayberg. Please be sure to check out Typewriter, fantastic new book from Yevgenia. Also want to thank the members of my Reading with Your Kids team. Of course, want to thank my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my account executive, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. And, of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And, as always, Thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.